Namaskar, good afternoon. This is Monideepa De speaking. I'll be speaking on Hindu temple architecture, and I'll be discussing what exactly the meaning of a Hindu temple, what it means what it should mean to a Hindu, and I shall also be discussing in reference to my book, which is partly on Hindu temple architecture, and discusses the Himachal temple connection with ancient Bengal. So this will be my topic for today. So first, let us start with what is a Hindu temple. Hindu temple is not only a place where we go to pray, worship. It is of course where we go to pray and worship, but it doesn't just mean that we are there to pray and worship. We first need to understand what it means, and to a Hindu temple is a place where he goes. It's for moksha. So it is a kind of tirtha yatra that he does. He is undertaking a pilgrimage when he goes to a temple, and it is not only for worship, it is not only for prayers, it is he goes there to meet the divine being that he believes in. It may be Shiva, it may be Vishnu, it may be the Devi. So he goes there to meet there for a brief moment, and that brief moment that he sees his God, he is actually enjoying the few moments of moksha. So basically, the visit to a Hindu temple is equivalent to getting moksha for few brief, whatever moments that he is inside the sanctum, he is inside the temple viewing his God. For those few brief moments, he is enjoying the bliss of moksha. So a Hindu temple is very special for a Hindu. It is not only a place for worship. One must, whenever a person is going to a Hindu temple, one must keep in mind he is also going to be in a very special place where he is going to enjoy the supreme union with his divine God. In Hinduism and in other Indic religion, life is itself a tirtha, and we are going from one birth to death to another birth, so it is a completely a journey in life, and this is very beautifully explained in the Bhatiyali songs of Bengal. I don't know how many of you have heard it, but the songs are very beautiful because these people who are the Bhatiyali songs are for the fishermen folk. They go for long journeys on rivers and seas, and they are not home for many months altogether. So there's a very philosophical way of, they see life in a very philosophical way, where the river that they are traveling along has ghats. Those ghats are like stages in life. You are born, you are growing up as various incidents, various ghats. You're getting married, it's a big ghat. Your loss in lives, there are various ghats. So every step in life is viewed as a ghat, and where you stop for very brief moments, and then you move along. Your life is carrying on along the river, you're moving along, and when you reach death, that is also another ghat. You are not actually reaching the end. Death in Hinduism is not the end of a journey. Death in Hinduism is just another part of the journey where you are moving on to your next birth, and you are moving a step ahead towards moksha. In Hinduism, one needs to understand is that in Hinduism, the basic concept of Hinduism is focused on moksha, on the divine union with your divinity. Whomever God you believe Shiva, you must look forward to getting united with Shiva. That is the basic, and nothing else matters. Only what matters is the union with the supreme consciousness. So death in our Hinduism, life and death, birth and death rather, are not end or beginning of any journey. It is just a continuity of journey, part of the journey where you are moving ahead towards uniting with your God. So similar philosophy is also based in a temple, where as I said, you go to a temple to meet your God for a few moments. It's moksha. Everything in Hinduism is based on moksha. In your life, you aim at moksha. In your death, you're moving ahead towards one step towards moksha. In temple, you are going to meet your God. You are getting moksha for a few minutes. This is how it works out in Hinduism. So we normal human beings, we look at lives and deaths, and so we have a lot of cycles which we go through before we finally, if we can achieve moksha, that is. But there are sages, saints who have got this Jivan Mukti, which is they have achieved the release in the lifetime. With one death, they have reaching that ultimate moksha, but we are not ascetics. We are normal human beings. We carry on with this journey from life to death. We keep on, and this is how it goes. This is tirtha. Our life is also a tirtha in that way. It's a pilgrimage from one life to death to another life. We are moving on towards moksha. Its entire life is a pilgrimage, and this is how Hinduism is the basic concept in Hinduism, which is also reflected in the temple philosophy. Now, when we build a temple, there are few things which we need to keep in mind. Now, if you read Brihat Samhita, we find that it says that gods always play where lakes are, where the sun's rays are warded off by umbrella of lotus leaf clusters. Gods always play where rivers have for their bracelets the sound of the flight of curlews and the voice of the swans. Basically, a temple should be near a water body. This is what Brihat Samhita tells us, that water is very important in temple, in Hindu meaning of temple. And the temple should be in the north side or on the east side, and if it's on an island, the entire river, the water body surrounding a temple becomes sacred. So water body is very important for a temple, and if you find in some of the old temples, you will find that it's very beautiful located. There's one particular temple in Mandi, Panchavaktra temple, which is absolutely what it defines in Brihat Samhita. It is on a small island sort of surrounded by two rivers, and it's a very beautiful place, and the murti of Shiva is also very beautiful over there. It has 5 faces, which is very unique because Shiva is generally represented in four faces. The fifth face is not shown because the fifth face is incomprehensible even to the greatest saints, so it is not shown. In iconography, it is never shown. The 4 faces are shown. This temple, which is very ideally located between two rivers, also has this beautiful murti of Shiva, and especially mentioning it because it's such a perfect location as a Hindu temple, and with this unique murti. If possible, if one goes to Himachal Pradesh, one must visit this temple, Panchavaktra temple in Mandi. In Brihat Samhita, there is a word called play, play where the gods play. And here the word play is very interesting because it means the presence of gods, the presence of the celestial beings, which are acting as a mediator between the god and the supreme consciousness, which is the Vedic Brahman. And this temple is a place where the gods are installed and whose towering shikharas lead the bhakt's eyes from this world to the other worlds above. It's very simple. If once you are entering a temple, please keep this in mind when you next go to a temple. When you are entering the temple from the Mandapa region, you are entering, you are going to the sanctum. I'll come to the sanctum part, it's very sacred. When you are going to the sanctum, you remember you are entering into a very positive space. It's a very divine place where you are coming, you are the human being who is coming, and the divine energy is coming from top. So the shikhara, the tall shikharas that you see looking up, the divine energy is coming from down up there. It is coming down to the murti installed in the sanctum. You are entering from straight from the mandapa. You are coming to the sanctum. You see your God in front of you, and the divine energy is coming from top, from all the heavens, whatever you believe in is there, from the universe, the cosmos, it's coming down. So it's the union of the divine energy that is coming in from top, and you as a human being who's coming, the murti is there as a representative of the divine energy. So it's a very special moment that is happening. Next time you enter a temple, please keep this in mind. Keep your mind free of everything, all the negative thoughts, negative energies. Enter it with a very positive mind because you are in a very sacred space. This is the basic fundamental of a Hindu temple. Worship rituals are there. They are of course always there, but it is a very personal one-to-one interaction that you will be having with your supreme divine, whatever God you believe in. Next time you go to a Hindu temple, please keep this in mind, that you are entering a very sacred space. You are for a moment enjoying that very special moksha, which is the ultimate aim of a Hindu. For a Hindu life ends in moksha, but for that few brief moments you are inside the temple sanctum, you are getting that moksha. Please keep this in mind. So enter a temple with that thought in mind, that you are entering a very sacred space. A Hindu temple The most important part when you're building a Hindu temple is the Vastu Purusha Mandala. I'll come to this a little later. First, let me explain about this. How a temple is built. A temple, when a temple, you decide, supposing you want to decide, you have decided to build a temple, you will have to find a group of people. You are the person. Building a temple is similar to doing a yagna or a sacrifice. So it's a very sacred thing that you're going to do. You have to find people who are going to help you build the temple. Like you have to find a sthapati, architect who's going to help you build a temple. He will then, along with the sthapati will come an acharya who will be the priest, the architectural, he's known as the architectural priest, and he is going to guide the sthapati in building the temple and various other. There are various things associated with the Hindu temple. It's not just a religious place. Astronomy is associated with it, astrology is associated with it, various technical sciences associated with it, mathematics is associated with it. So these people, the Sapati and the Acharya, the priest basically, who are going to be associated with the temple, needs to be very well versed in these subjects. Not just architecture, they need to know a lot of other things like astronomy, astrology, everything they need to know. So the person who is doing the sacrifice, the donor, he has to seek a person who is capable of building a temple according as per all the rituals. The sthapati and the acharya has to be very carefully chosen. After they choose, the sthapati will build a temple which will be having the sculptors known as a takshaka. Then they will be having the painters, the other craftsmen over there, and surveyors. All he will choose everything, and he'll build a team, and the acharya will guide the entire team. This is how a temple building procedure starts. Once the temple building procedure starts, when you have decided you want to build a temple, then you have to select a correct spot. There are various ways. The acharya will guide you in this, the architect sthapati will guide you in this, and it has to be selected very carefully, because selecting a wrong spot will make a temple useless. Basically, if you build a temple without selecting the correct spot, your temple might have adverse effects also. Vastu Shastra is very important, that's why, because there are often negative effects if the spot is chosen wrongly. So you need very good guidance from these two people. And once the correct site is selected, then a lot of other procedure starts. You have to level the ground. You have to see the size, the shape of the ground is very important. The leveling has to be done very straight. You cannot keep ups and downs in the ground. These all have to be done. These two people will guide the donor in this process. And then comes, once the ground is leveled, the most important part of a Hindu temple is starting, that is the Vastu Purusha Mandala. Vastu Purusha Mandala is a complex subject. I'll briefly touch upon it because you cannot go into details while talking. It's a very difficult subject. What happens is that it's a ritual diagram which needs to be put on the ground, and on the place where you put this diagram, the sanctum will come up. The Garbhagriha, which we call the Garbhagriha, will come up. And since that is going to be the most important part in a temple and the most sacred part of a temple, this Vastu Purusha Mandala has to be done with proper rituals. It has to be placed on the ground, and that site becomes the most sacred site. Then there are other rituals which will be done, like after that the site, that place is dug up a bit, and they put in various things. A tortoise is put, garva, pot is put, signifying the Devi as the garva. So these procedures are very important, but the Guru, Acharya and the Sapati will guide the donor, and it will be done accordingly. And I'll say a few lines on this. Vastu Purusha Mandala is a ritual diagram that regulates the site plan and the ground plan, and is drawn on the ground before the temple construction starts. And this is the place where the temple will stand. And it will always be square. Very important, it will always be square, because the square shape represents the heaven. And always keep in mind, a square shape is equal to heaven, and a round shape, a circular shape, represents the earth. So a temple Garbhagriha will always be square. And this is the first step in Indian architectural science, and this is how the temple starts. So the first step in a temple procedure is drawing the Vastu Purusha Mandala on the ground where the sanctum will stand. Vastu Purusha Mandala is very interesting because it is made up of 3 words, of which Vastu refers to the site chosen, Vastu is the site, and which is the bodily existence, that is the form, the structure, something which you can see, that is the Vastu. Purusha, Vastu Purusha Mandala, now the second part is the Purusha. Purusha is the universal essence, which means it has no substance, it is formless, it has no form, it is just the essence, the divine essence, that is the Purusha. And Mandala is any closed polygon, which is a square in case of a temple. And once this Vastu Purusha Mandala is put, this becomes the fundament from which the temple structure will rise. Vastu Purusha Mandala, the place where it is put, it is where the meeting point of the heaven and the earth happens, and it becomes accessible to the man, the human being that walks into a temple. And Vastu Purusha Mandala is very interesting because it is a square, it has grids in it. A temple Vastu Purusha Mandala generally will have 62 grids. There are 2 types of Vastu Purusha Mandala, one with 62 grids, other with 81. Temple ones generally go with 62 grids, and grids meaning squares, small squares inside the larger square, big square. And the center square point is where the Brahman is, the supreme consciousness site, and that is where we say is the dark place. That is where the supreme consciousness, where no artificial light or anything is there, just supreme place, and from where the eternal light comes out. Basically, the God is there. So that is the right at the center. Beyond it, very interestingly, this Brahman that I am talking about is beyond the concept of any life, death, time, nothing touches it. It's beyond Kal, this entire area. Beyond it starts the cycle of time. You will find just beyond this square of Brahma are the 12 Adityas, the sun. The sun gods, the 12 sun gods will be there. Beyond that will be the nakshatras, the moons, everything is there, all the planetary, entire planetary system. So basically what Vastu Purusha Mandala represents is the entire universe or cosmos. So now you can understand the Hindu temple represents the entire universe or the cosmos. Very interesting concept where we have the entire universe or cosmos within one structure. This is what Vastu Purusha Mandala represents. This science of Vastu is very important because it is also not only does it represent the entire universe or cosmos, it is also a directional science with the directional gods represented in many other temples. And this science of Vastu was first seen in the Sthapatya Veda, which is a part of the Atharva Veda. It is an Upaveda, part of the Atharva Veda, and it's a purely technical subject. And this knowledge remained confined to the Sthapatis, the ancient architects, which was then handed over to the heirs following oral traditions, meaning it was spoken to them and they learned it by heart. This is how the ancient Indian tradition knowledge passed on. Initially we did not have the writing, we did not have textbooks, we were passing on knowledge orally. That is why most of our texts, compilations are from a later period, while the knowledge goes back to a very past history. Like just for example, Rig Veda has knowledge starting from Ice Age, but the Rig Veda was compiled later. So this is how Indian knowledge systems works. Our knowledge is very old, but we had oral traditions when we was passing on the knowledge orally, and later the texts were compiled. So it's very difficult to date the Indian texts for this reason. If you say how old is Rig Veda, it is very difficult to say because the knowledge is very old. The books were compiled later. This has always to be kept in mind when you're dealing with Indian knowledge. For some of the books that deal with Indian architecture, ancient Indian architecture, are the Matsya Purana, Skanda Purana, Agni Purana, Garuda Purana, Vishnu Purana. And besides the Puranic text, it is our architecture is also there in the Mahabharata. Very beautiful descriptions of beautiful houses built for the kings. Ramayana also has them. Then you have the Vishwakarma Prakasha. You have Samarangana Sutradhara written by Raja Bhoj, 11th century. Very important for architecture books, for architecture students. Kashyap Silpa Shastra, Brihat Samhita is very important. Praman Manjari, then Maya Mata deals with the South Indian architecture basically. So these are very important books. If anybody is interested in Vastu Shastra, Indian architecture, these are the books that he or she should consult. So basically, from what we understood about the Vastu Purusha Mandala, it is that that's from the center, which is beyond all time or kal. What we find displayed is cyclical time in its sections in unit of days, months, and years. And in these cycles, the different courses of the sun and moon are adjusted. Thus, as I had said before, the Vastu Purusha Mandala is a representation of the entire universe or cosmos, with recurring cycles of time showing the ordered living world. So basically, in the center is the world which is beyond the universe, which is beyond any kal, and surrounding it is the ordered living world where we stay. It's a very beautiful representation of Vastu Purusha Mandala in our temples. A Hindu temple is a representation of the entire universe, which includes the non-living and the living parts. And about the temple architecture categorization is something which one should remember, is that now we study as three parts: the Nagara, which is the North Indian temple architecture; Dravida, which is the South Indian temple architecture; and Vesara is a mix of two. But these are regional categorizations were not there in the old ancient texts. Very interestingly, our old temples were named as per measurement and shape. Very beautiful names, but they were named after measurement and shapes. And the ancient textbooks, we have 20 such names, 20 temples. It is later it became 45, it increased to 45. These 20 temples are described based on the rules of proportionate measurement, and we find these names in Samaranga Sutradhara, Matsya Purana and other Puranas. And the names very beautiful. The names were Meru, Mandara, Kailasha, Nandana, Vimanachanda, Kunjara, Gaja, etc. Very beautiful names which are all forgotten now. I think except only for Kailasha temple, all other names are forgotten. And now we know temples as Nagara style, Dravida style and Vesara style. This old 20 temples that we had were very interestingly were based on the 5 Vimanas. 5 Vimanas were the 5 divine chariots that Brahma had made for gods, and they were named as Vairaja, Pushpaka, Kailasha, Manika and Trivistava. So those old temples, 20 temples that we had, were basically similar to the 5 Vimanas which Brahma had designed. And you will find these this image of a chariot, of a Vimana is a chariot, of a chariot in the Airavateshwara temple. In Tarasuram, Tamil Nadu, you have this Chola built Airavateshwara temple, must visit temple to see a beautiful chariot. Temple is in the shape of a chariot with proper wheels and horses pulling it. So this is a very beautiful example of what our ancient people had thought in mind when they thought of a temple. And if we look at a Nagara temple, the parts are, when you are entering through, there is a Ardhamandapa, a small hall, that is the front hall. Then you enter, there's a bigger hall which is called the Mandapa. Then you enter a vestibule part which connects the Shikhara with the Mandapa. You cross this vestibule part, and then you enter the Shikhara Garbhagriha, which is the main part of a temple. Rest parts are all additional and subservient to the sanctum. This is a very important part in Hindu temple architecture which one must remember, is that the main part is sanctum. Once a sanctum is built, a temple is ready for worship. Sanctum is built, deity is installed with proper rites and rituals. The Hindu temple is ready for worship. Rest parts can be built later, you can go on working on the temple, but the sanctum must be complete with the deity installed. So these parts come later, they are additional parts. The earliest temples were just square blocks with the deity installed. So these parts, the mandapa were later built. You can build them later. The sanctum must be complete, the deity must be installed, you can start worshipping. Similarly, South Indian temples have also their parts, and they have the stupi, the shikhara, griva. These need to be explained through a picture, or you can read books because these parts are complex. I can only name the parts while speaking, it will not be clear if I go on to it. So just remember the three names: Nagara, Dravida, and Vesara. Vesara is a mix of Nagara and Dravida. There is one thing I would like to talk on this South Indian temple. There is a confusion. I have often seen people confusing between Vimana and Gopuram. Vimana is the Shikhara of the South Indian temple, and Gopuram is a tall gateway to a South Indian temple through which you enter. These are also very tall pyramidal structures. One must remember that Gopuram and Vimana are not the same thing. They're two very entire different things. Vimana is the Shikhara of our South Indian temple. Gopuram is a tall gateway. Do not mix these two up. Talking of some popular motifs on Hindu temples, I would like to focus on few ones. Like these are the recurring. Besides the main deities, once you go to this old temple, visit the old temples. If you visit the Chola temples or any of the old temples, you will find that the walls have the main deity on the main niches, the cardinal niches. Main deity meaning if Shiva is there, you will find various forms of Shiva around the temple. If Vishnu is there, you will find Vishnu, aspects of various forms of Vishnu, maybe the Dasavatara is there. So besides this, there are some motifs which you will find in almost all temples. Of this, the most common is the Kirti Mukha. It's a big, large face. People say it looks like a demon with puffed cheeks, eyes bulging out, mouth open, lots of things coming out, pearl-like features coming out from the mouth. Kirti Mukha is the face of, there are various explanations to Kirti Mukha. I'll stick to the simplest one. Kirti Mukha is a representation of Kal. It is the representation of time where the breath that comes out is life, and as it is eating, it means death. It's breathing out life and taking in life. It is a representation of life and death, Kal. Kirti Mukha is the face of Kal. Some say it is also a face of Rahu, again meaning life and death. So whenever you see that bulging eyes and that face there, you know it is representing death. It is also representing life in another way. Then there is the Mithuna sculptures, which are very common, and there has been a lot of debate on this Mithuna sculptures, and I have seen a lot of people from especially in the Western world, who do not understand the meaning of this Mithuna, and a lot of mockery goes on. But I have to clarify one thing on this Mithuna sculptures. Mithuna is also a representation of moksha. So when next time you go to a temple and you see a couple, it is actually symbolic of the pleasure of the union with your God. It has nothing to do with physical sex or anything. It means moksha. The moksha, it is a symbolic representation of the happiness you will feel when you finally united with your God. If you are worshipping Shiva, when you finally attain, after all your lives and death, the cycle of life ends and you are finally attaining moksha with Shiva, that ultimate happiness is represented in moksha, in the Mithuna sculptures. So Mithuna has nothing to do with Kama Sutra, it has nothing to do with sex or anything. It represents the ultimate happiness you will get when you achieve moksha. This is the only explanation for those couple that you see standing in various positions. So next time you see it, it's nothing to mock about. It represents your divine union with the God. Then you will find very small figures known as Ganas, Shiva Ganas, very rotund bodies running around doing a lot of work. They are also the Bharavakas. You will find them located on top of the pillars, temple pillars, as if they are carrying the weight of the pillars. These represent the air world, the airy features, the air that you breathe in. When you breathe in the air that is surrounding us, it is represented by them. That is why they are all bloated up figures, full of air. This is what Ganas are, the very air that you breathe in and breathe out, they represent that. I'm giving very basic explanations because these are complex. Iconography is very complex. It's not easy to explain this way. So I'm just explaining in a very brief way so that next time you go to a temple, you at least know what you are seeing, the figures that you see. Next is the Surasundaris, the Apsaras, beautiful women in various poses. There's a very beautiful explanation for this. It is said that one day Devi Parvati was looking into a mirror, and you will always find iconography of Parvati with the mirror in hand. It is said that one day she was looking into a mirror, and she realized she's very beautiful. And when that sense came that she's very beautiful, with it came a very negative aspect, which is pride. She felt pride in her beauty, and it is that moment of pride. Pride is supposed to be a negative emotion. It is not a very positive emotion when you take pride in your beauty. It is from that moment of pride that when she's feeling that she's very beautiful, she is nobody like her, that moment of pride is represented in the Sura Sundaris. It is said it's a moment when she falls. It's a fallen moment of falling down, and this Apsara Surasundaris come out from that few moments that she's falling, she's feeling pride. It's a negative emotion. So from that, this beautiful Apsara Surasundaris come out, and these are representing the Devi's pride. That is why they are so beautiful. They are attractive to men. They are attracting men. Come look at me. So these are all negative features. This coming out from a very negative emotion called pride, Devi's pride. So these are the basic, the meaning of a temple, Hindu temple architecture, and the iconography I went through very briefly. The figures, these are the common figures that you see. Besides these common features, you will find the representation of the main god over there, and this is very important because these represent various Puranic stories. So when you go around these old temples, go around this, see these deities in various forms. You might see Shiva burning Kamdeva. So next time you see that feature, if there's a priest with you, he will tell you the name of the story. Go back, read the stories, because this is how you stay connected to your roots, your religion in Hinduism. The story of burning Kamdeva is a Puranic story. You read the story, you understand what happened. And there might be the burning of Kamdeva. There will be other stories like Shiva's dancing with Devi Kali. That is also another very interesting story where Shiva and Kali have a dancing competition, and Shiva could not beat Devi Kali, and so finally what he does, he lifts his leg, Urdhava Tanlava, where he lifts his leg, and Devi Kali, being a woman, could not lift her leg, so she accepts defeat. Very beautiful stories. This is carved on the Chola temple. I've seen it myself, and it's very beautiful stories. Read the stories. Once you go around the temple, do a pradakshina, see the various figures, take pictures, come back, take up the Puranic stories, all there on the Google. So search for them, read the stories. It's very important for us to remain in touch with our roots, basically Hinduism roots, and pass on the stories to your children, to others who are interested. Tell them the stories, because this is how our religion got passed over. Our bards, it's one thing which is very important and missing these days. They used to go around to the remote villages with the scrolls, and they used to tell stories about this Puranic Mahabharata, Puranic stories, and that's how they used to keep this villages connected to Hinduism. As this bard thing slowly died out, what has happened is that they got replaced by the evangelists who went and conversion started. So to stop all these things, we need to get back to our roots. We need to know our Puranic stories. We need to know our epics very well. These are all carved on the walls of the old Hindu temples. When you go around taking a pradakshina, please remember to take note of them. Even if you don't take photographs, keep in mind the various images that you see there, the various iconographic deities that you see there. Come back home, read the stories, know what is going on, understand it, and stay in touch with your roots. So this part covers the temple architecture and iconography. Next, I'll move on to my book. I'll give a brief note on my book. That is, my book's name is the Himachal Temples and the Bengal Connection. The first part, I talk about the temple architecture and the iconography, which I already explained. The second part takes up the subject of Himachal temples and the Bengal temples. There's a connection between the two. I'll go into it. Himachal temples, I have been to Himachal many times. Right from childhood, I've been traveling to Himachal, and my friend stays there. So I'm a very frequent visitor to Himachal. I had noticed a temple over there. They are similar to the Rekha Deul style. Rekha Deul style is still found in Orissa. Bengal, unfortunately, has very few left. The Islamic iconoclastic invaders, when they came in for 200 years, Bengal was facing devastation. So most of the temples are gone. Still, there are some remaining. If you look at those structures, and I have written a blog on these. If you just type monidipa.net, you will find that I have covered them in two parts. One is the ancient Bengal temple, and the second is the later. There was a Bengal Renaissance after 200 years of complete devastation. Bengal Renaissance, the Hindu Renaissance, happened in Bengal. Complete different temple architecture came up, which Bengal is now known for, the terracotta temples. The Chala temples that Bengal is known for was not originally a part of Bengal temple. Bengal temples was like what we see now in Himachal Pradesh or Orissa, the Rekha Deol temples. Bengal had those beautiful Rekha Deol temples, both stone and in bricks. So when I had gone to Himachal, I had seen the similarity, but it did not really struck me in that way. What got me started was that a priest, a Himachali priest from the one of the temples in Himachal, told me that with the Bijli Madhav temple, in fact, he told me that we have a Bengal connection, and many Bengalis were settled here. He spoke of the Pala dynasty. He said the Pala dynasty came to the Kulu Valley and they settled many of the Bengalis. They had brought many Gotras of the Bengalis and settled down them there. So what you see in the Kulu Valley are actually many of them, most of them in fact, are descendants of this Bengalis, which were brought in, say, around they went around from the late 8th 7th century till they ruled till 15th century. So they were settled there from this long period that the Palas ruled. Many Bengalis were settled, and these are descendants of the Bengalis. So this started me off, and as I read through the various books, everything is documented. It's not that documentation is not there. It is documented. It's just that people did not know of these books. People did not know of these documents. So as I studied them, I traced out the kings. My book has the entire details of the kings that ruled from late 8th century. One of the Pala dynasty that started in Himachal Pradesh was a breakup from the Gopala. Gopala was the first Pala king of West Bengal. He was democratically, very interestingly, he was democratically elected. He was voted to power. Bengal was going through a chaos after Gupta period, after Shashanka died, and then the heads of the communities came together and they elected Gopala as the king. The king that went to Himachal Pradesh, his family started by a shoot of this Gopala, his cousin or his brother, somebody went over there, and I've traced it all in my book, and they went and settled there and started the dynasty around late 8th century in the hills. And one temple is still there in Jagatsukh. If you visit Himachal Pradesh, you must visit this temple. It's a Shiva temple, very beautiful, late 8th century, one of the earliest temples built by the Pala dynasty. It's also the oldest stone surviving temple in Himachal Pradesh. It's in Jagatsukh, a must visit temple, and very typical Pala art. Unfortunately, in Bengal, most of the temples are gone. What I saw was Himachal Pradesh is what once Bengal had. So that's how I traced the Pala dynasty. As I was working on the Pala dynasty, I came to know that there is another Bengal dynasty in Himachal Pradesh, which is the Sena dynasty. And the Sena dynasty is still there. The last Sena dynasty ruler is still there. He has no heir, so he has given the kingdom in the name of Sri Krishna. So it's theocracy now. Sri Krishna is the king of Mandi now, and there will be no more kings. But the family still there, the princess is still there, and they had the family tree, and they are from the Sena dynasty from Bengal who had gone after the Islamic invasion. The main family remained in Bengal. They were still ruling parts of Bengal. One of the brothers moved out to seek new kingdoms. He had moved westward. He had gone to the Punjab. From there he had moved to Himachal Pradesh in the Mandi Valley. Two brothers were ruling side by side. They were at war, but they never really attacked each other in that way, but they were ruling side by side. And it has been traced, everything has been traced in my book, the Sena dynasty, the Mandi Valley part. Mandi Valley has a beautiful temples built by the Sena kings. Must visit. The Mandi town itself is full of stone temples. To see the Pala dynasty temple, you need to go to the Kulu Valley. The Naggar area has a lot of Pala era built stone temples, very beautiful ones. All listed in my book. All both Sena and Pala stone temples are listed in my book. Do visit Himachal Pradesh. It's a very beautiful place. Besides the Himalayas, they have very beautiful temples. Both the Katkuni style, Himalayan style, and the stone temples built by the Pala and the Sena dynasty. Must visit, must see them to see the Bengal connection. The temple architecture is so similar. This is thing that you must be seen when you go to the Naggar area. When you go to Manali, you just travel to Jagatsuk and the Naggar, which is very near to Manali, just half an hour to 45 minutes away, and go to Mandi and visit the Mandi city. The temples are all there, beautiful temples of all. Since Sena dynasty came in later, 15th to 16th century, these are later period temples. Palas are much earlier, from late 8th to 15th century. So these temples are all standing over there as the connection between ancient Bengal and ancient Himachal. And Himachal also has a very beautiful folk tradition which has been very beautifully combined with the Hinduism. This is explained in my book. This is a very unique part of Himachal Hinduism where they have taken in the folk traditions, the folk cultures. They still have the local devatas, which are in some way or the other connected to Shiva and the Devi. Since all these things have traveled from Bengal, Himachal has a very strong Shakta religion practice, meaning the Devi worship is very strong over there. You'll find a lot of Kali worship, a lot of Mahishasur. There are beautiful Mahishasur Mandini murtis which have mostly unfortunately gone out of India, but they were all from Himachal. So since it has gone from Bengal, the Shakta tradition has travelled to Himachal, and they are strong believers in the Devi worship. So please do travel to Himachal, look at these temples, understand the connection, and please do read my book to know this connection, because I have explained all these things in my book. And the first part of the book is also important because it deals with the Hindu temple architecture. You need to understand first the meaning behind the Hindu temple. It is not like the Abrahamic shrines, which is the house of God, where you go to meet the God, say your prayers. It's not that. Our temples are very different. You go for moksha, you go there to briefly enjoy that moksha. Understand the iconography, very important. Hindu iconography, temple iconography are all unique, all are related to moksha in some way. So it's my request to please understand your temple, understand your iconography, and please visit Himachal Pradesh and understand the connection between Bengal and Himachal Pradesh.